Thanks, Paul. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Ebbsfleet. So I'm just going to take you through a brief presentation on our experiences of the role of the Action Learning Alliance, or what we've redubbed within Ebbsfleet the Water Forum. But first off, let me just give you an overview of the Garden City for those that haven't had the benefit or the joy, for that matter, of visiting Ebbsfleet Garden City. So Ebbsfleet's where London meets the Garden of England, down in Kent. Just bring up this diagram for you, just to show a map of our location. So we are literally what I like to call the Thames Riviera, in between Dartford and Gravesend. So we're 17 minutes from central London on the high-speed line, and we're literally right on the edge of London. Our southern boundary is indeed the actual green belt, but this really isn't identical to the former garden cities of the 19th century, in that this isn't a greenfield development, but this is very much a brownfield urban regeneration project. So to give you an idea of the kind of landscapes we're dealing with, so we're looking here westwards, back towards, you can just make out in the background the Dartford Tunnel and the Queen Elizabeth Bridge, and in the foreground we have the Ebbsfleet Central area. So we have a beautiful lake in front of us, and this really illustrates the kind of landscape we're dealing with in Ebbsfleet. It's made up of a network of quarries. The whole area was pretty much quarried over the last 150 years for the chalk, and this has left an incredible post-industrial landscape with the River Ebbsfleet running through the centre of it, and a series of quarries and some lakes sitting in those quarries. So it's quite a complex topography and lots of water issues within it that we're going to talk about a little bit about today. Just a quick another view looking over one of the larger quarries. This is the Eastern Quarry, 1.5 miles long by 0.5 mile wide, and you can see another couple of lakes sitting there as well, and also kind of shows some of the existing settlements that we are working alongside to build the Garden City. And then up on the northern boundary of the city, we've got the Northfleet Riverside area, which runs alongside the Thames, and here you can see some of the industrial buildings alongside some of the residential development sites that we're plugging in on the Thames waterfront. And then the last of our development areas is the Swanscombe Peninsula. So this is a large peninsula that Thames wraps around on the northern edge of the city. Huge area, currently scheduled for a potential theme park, the London International Resort. But as you can imagine, this peninsula has significant flooding issues. And again, a challenge for whatever development comes forward upon it. And a quick view down in the quarry, back down in the quarry of one of the lakes. So in terms of the challenges for Ebbsfleet around water, most of the key development sites are within a quarry, and quite a few of those therefore sit below the actual water table. So obviously some serious challenges there. Our largest quarry, they're pumping millions of litres of water every day out of the quarry, and will do, for the foreseeable future. So key challenges there around water management, as you can imagine. What I dubbed the mighty River Ebbsfleet, which is really little more than a trickle at the moment. It's a very short river. It's only about 1.5 miles long, and has a small catchment, of course, and currently it's culverted through the central area, the proposed central area. So there's some challenges there around how we kind of use that river, both for a water management function, but also for a placemaking function. We have a sewage treatment works right in the centre of the Garden City, but it's already at capacity. So there's challenges there around how we replace that particular facility, and how we plan for the water management across the Garden City to kind of to right size that facility, and to kind of think about more innovative approaches to water management that could help to reduce the size, the scale, and improve the efficiency of that facility. I kind of highlighted some of our sites particularly on the Thames waterfront, have some ground contamination issues, particularly cement kiln dust coming from the quarrying and the cement industry that was prevalent across our area over the last 100 years. And because of that chalk base within the area, there are limited opportunities for infiltration. Then we also have a number of localized surface water flooding areas that we need to deal with. They're not hugely significant and not that common, but there are prevalences of localized flooding. and then the tidal flooding issues along the River Thames as well, and how we work to support the Estuary 2100 project. So there's a quick walkthrough of the key challenges around water management in the Garden City, and kind of the wicked problems that Paul and Tudor talked about, run through all of those challenges, and how we think about those challenges together in an integrated way really was the starting point for the Ebbsfleet Water Forum. So when the Development Corporation was set up back in 2015, the situation we had was planning permission was already granted for 11,042 homes. So this slide just shows the top of the slide. Those 11,000 homes were distributed across 6 development areas, that you can see in the grey boxes. And in 2016, one of the first acts of the Development Corporation was to prepare and publish the Ebbsfleet Implementation Framework. So this is effectively a master plan of master plans. It pulls together the master plans for those 6 development sites and sets out the principles for how you apply a 21st century garden city approach to development within those development sites. Along the bottom of that slide, you can see the 6 key design principles, and the first of those principles, bringing in the green and blue, really emphasizes the importance that is given within the garden city to water management as part of a wider landscape strategy. So we do see it as a critical part of garden city principles and sustainable design, and that therefore has kind of underpinned a lot of the design work that we've taken forward since 2016. So that principle, that first principle, bringing in the garden, bringing in the green and the blue, manifests itself in what we call the garden grid. So this is a principle of linking up all of the green infrastructure into that grid for both biodiversity, but also for water management. And so this diagram comes straight from the implementation framework, and it illustrates some of the key points around how you integrate the water management into the wider garden city. And there was also a page within the implementation framework setting out the principles of water sensitive design and a kind of model for how that would be embedded into our master planning. So how are we doing? Just to quickly finish this first stage of my presentation, how are we doing? We're up to about 1,800 new homes now within the last 4 years. So we're building out, we're one of the fastest building development sites in the country now. We're investing almost 25 million in upgrading the public transport system. We've got the first primary school open and 4 more due to open over the next 3 years. 2 new community centres, bridges, and we are now starting to develop a wider parks programme. A key change over the last month or so has been the purchasing of the central area. So the Development Corporation now own the city centre around the international train station in Ebbsfleet, and that will allow us to bring forward development around the River Ebbsfleet, because the Ebbsfleet River runs through the centre of the city centre, and that provides us the opportunity to do a lot more around water management linked to the river. So that's an exciting development for us that we'll be working on over the next few years. So how did the Ebbsfleet Water Forum fit into our thinking, and how have we worked with that forum to over the last few years? So as Tudor's kind of flagged back in 2016, just as we were being set up by the government, we were approached to be a partner within the Urban Flood Resilience Research Project, alongside Newcastle as one of the case studies. And over the last 3 years, we've benefited from working with the research consortium in order to develop the Action Learning Alliance, which has then become the Water Forum. So Tudor's already flagged some of the key people that have been involved in the forum. Some of these have joined from the start, and some of these have kind of intermittently joined some of the sessions. So I think that's a key point that I would flag, is that through the flexible approach, we try and get as many people as possible to each forum event, but we accept that because of challenges around resourcing, that's not always achievable. So the role of the forum, as the Development Corporation sees it, is around 3 areas. It's about strategic thinking and guidance, so co-developing strategies, policies and guidance across the members of the forum. It's about coordinating our work around water in the Ebbsfleet area. And then it's also about that learning and dissemination, so about co-learning together and understanding what best practice might be within Ebbsfleet based on the emerging thinking around water management, and then disseminating that both amongst our own organisations, but also more widely as well. And I would flag that, water is one of 8 design areas. So my role as head of design is to promote the quality of design within the Garden City, and that spans across 4 scales of development. So master planning is the largest scale, then we have street design, we have parks and open space design, and then the smallest scale is the kind of the building. And so within each of those 4 scales of project, we look to promote 8 key design areas, and water management is one of those 8 areas. So that's really how the Water Forum fits within my working role. And all 3 of these areas we try and promote through that work. I'd also flag that, this is a type of organisation, a type of model that we are already operating across other design areas. So, for example, the design of the transport network, we run a similar forum for regional and local bodies to come together and collaborate to discuss the future planning of this transport network within Ebbsfleet. And so really we saw the Ebbsfleet Water Forum, the Action Learning Alliance, as a comparable model that would allow us to promote a co-design approach to the management of water in the city. So over the last 3 years, we've been typically meeting quarterly, but it's up to now, it's because it's been led by the research consortium, then the individual meetings have really been predicated on the needs of that research project. We've hosted it as the Development Corporation, but the agenda is open for partners to bring their own agenda items too. A key part of the programme over the last few years has been the development of the systems dynamic model that Tudor has flagged in order to explore possible policy options. And also, we've looked to provide strategic review and guidance of a system model, an urban metabolism model, which we're quite excited about being able to now use now that we've got a draft version of the model, in order to explore the location, for example, of the replacement for the wastewater treatment works, and for other key decisions around water infrastructure within the city. And then another key aspect of the forum in the first 12 months was the development of what we've called an Ebbsfleet water strategy. So how would we approach the integrated management of water within the city? I'm just going to spend a few slides talking through the integrated water strategy and the role that the forum will play in implementing it. So back in 2017, when we were in the first stages of the Water Forum, we ran a series of workshops with the forum to explore objectives for the strategy and to identify key performance indicators, so things that we would actually be able to measure to understand how we're performing against those objectives. And I should also note that Southern Water have then gone on to develop their own strategy for Ebbsfleet, which is significantly based around their Target 100 initiative. So how will the forum support the delivery of this integrated water strategy? So there's 5 key objectives, and if we just go through one in each turn. So objective 1 is around waterscapes, and this is about enabling access to the water and making sure that water is of the top quality and of the right quantity within Ebbsfleet. So it's about making sure that the River Ebbsfleet has sufficient flow, depth and width to provide both the water management function, but also the placemaking function. It goes right through the centre of the city, and the intention is to create a series of attractive and landmark open spaces with the river running through it, and we therefore need to make sure that the river has enough water in it in order to kind of create that dramatic and attractive setting. Also, the river does have a flood risk associated with it, particularly because of that culverting that I mentioned earlier through parts of the centre, and so we need to make sure that any master planning around the river takes that into consideration. The intention is really for the Water Forum to peer review major infrastructure projects happening across the city, to take a collaborative approach to testing those proposals and identifying preferred solutions for those proposals. And another key part program of investment is around the parks. the EDC's Parks programme, and again we'll be looking to use the Water Forum to review projects coming through in the Parks investment programme and to make sure that they are achieving best practice. Objective 2, flood resilience. So how can we maximise water capture, the attenuation and retention to ensure that the rate of wastewater and surface water discharge is no greater than it was in April 2015, and to explore surface water solutions that also offer community benefits. So a key part of what we're doing is around co-design. That goes across all of the projects within the Garden City. We're looking to involve the local community as well as the more conventional stakeholders to explain to them the key objectives of any design project and involve them in exploring what the potential solutions are. And we see the Water Forum as a key part of that. So we intend to use the Water Forum to run dedicated workshops for future master planning exercises, and then also to use the Water Forum to review our public realm strategy. So we're just in the process of launching a public realm strategy, which includes detailed guidance on how to design streets within the city. This is an area we are really keen to focus on. How do you incorporate sustainable drainage into the streets? And we see there's a key role for the Water Forum in reviewing that work and making sure that it's fit for purpose. The third objective is around water recycling, so reducing the demand for centralised water supply by reusing water resources. And we see the Water Forum's role here is in really using that systems dynamic model to assess the feasibility of potential policies and interventions, and then secondly in the co-promotion of things such as rainwater harvesting within Ebbsfleet, and to do that at a range of scales. So we're looking at applying it potentially at a neighbourhood scale as well as at individual site scales, and how we promote that, not necessarily through regulation, as Tudor flagged in one of his slides, but looking at how we can kind of use nudge approaches to encourage the incorporation of rainwater harvesting within schemes. Objective 4 is around water use itself, and this aligns directly with Southern Water's Target 100 initiative, so reducing the amount of water used, particularly by residents, but also by commercial and industrial uses within the city. And the last objective, community understanding, which aligns with that point I made a minute ago around working closely with our local communities so that they actually understand the issues, and they therefore take ownership of the water within their landscapes, and also the management of water within their own homes as well, in order to kind of reduce water scarcity and ensure we've got sustainable water usage within Ebbsfleet going forward. So just to wash up and finish off my presentation, so lessons from the Water Forum. The key point I would make is that water is only one of many issues that myself and colleagues in the design and planning arenas are dealing with, and therefore in order to kind of ensure you've got airtime and support for the water agenda, you do need a champion there, kind of promoting the water angle within a meeting. You need a clear program and agenda to make sure that you encourage people to join and remain as part of the Water Forum, even when flooding is not a top priority. So I'm sure this rings bells for many across the country, but immediately after flood events, then there's always a flurry of interest in these kinds of projects and this kind of thinking, but that soon dissipates away once those flood events are forgotten. And so I think it's important that we kind of maintain that interest through establishing kind of these kinds of action learning alliances. We need to carefully balance the amount of collaboration versus over engagement. So, I think we started off meeting much more regularly, but actually falling to a quarterly meeting was much more achievable and ensured that we actually did get people attending the Water Forum sessions. And then the fourth point really is about achieving and highlighting those alignments with other agendas. So water management, we know, is an important agenda, but at the same time, other agendas are raising up and down the political scale, the political agenda itself. And so it's important to kind of highlight alignments with those in order to kind of encourage greater support for water within the planning of new cities and new developments. So that's the completion of my presentation. Back to you, Paul.
Great, thanks for that, Simon. Really interesting. We've got a few minutes for a question or two, so I might just take the chair's prerogative and ask a question. Simon, you said that water is it one of 8 topics that you're including in your design strategy?
Yeah, that's correct. You want to know what the others are?
And well, I was just wondering whether the Learning Action Alliance framework would be helpful, or have you been able to use anything that's come out from the Learning Action Alliance in the development of ideas and co-creation for the other design aspects at all?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that last point I made about the learnings is that actually the principles around water management do align closely with things such as the Healthy New Towns programme. So I'm not sure, for those that aren't aware, the NHS has been running for the last 3 years a Healthy New Towns programme, which is all about promoting the planning of new towns to encourage healthy lifestyles. And actually, you know, the design of and access to water is a key component in supporting people's mental health as well as their physical health, providing access to, you know, green infrastructure so they can exercise. But actually, the ability to view plants and water is a key component of mental health as well. That's been an awareness has been growing within recent research. So, you know, drawing those parallels with things such as the healthy agenda, that's helpful. And we've been working on a range of projects within Ebbsfleet around bringing those two together to achieve best quality outcomes in the design of our parks and open spaces.
Sure, great. Well, thank you for